The 2025 Dutch Grand Prix at Zandvoort was meant to be another test of resilience for Lewis Hamilton, a race where perhaps fortune would finally begin to turn in his favor after a season that has felt more like a heavy burden than a journey of renewal. Ever since his move to Ferrari, the dream of resurrecting both his career and the Scuderia's fading glory has slowly transformed into a prolonged series of disappointments, and today's race only deepened the shadows around his time in red. What unfolded in front of the passionate Dutch crowd was not just another chapter in the ongoing drama of Ferrari's 2025 campaign, but a brutal reminder of how fragile hope can be when performance refuses to follow ambition. The weekend had already been marked by tension. Ferrari arrived in Zandvoort under pressure, their recent string of underwhelming results raising questions not just about the car's development path, but also about whether the partnership between Hamilton and Ferrari was already showing cracks. The team had been experimenting with setups, trying to find the right balance for a car that has shown flashes of competitiveness but lacks consistency over a race distance. And yet, through the practice sessions, Hamilton did not appear particularly confident. The pace was lacking compared to the frontrunners, and although Zandvoort is a circuit that rewards bravery and precision, Ferrari's SF25 simply looked unstable through the banked corners and quick changes of direction. Hamilton, a driver who has built his legacy on controlling chaos and maximizing opportunities in tricky conditions, seemed to be working overtime just to keep the car competitive. The start of the race hinted at possibilities. Hamilton had lined up outside the top spots, far from the podium fight, but close enough to keep himself in contention should the unpredictable twists of Zandvoort come into play. For the first laps, he managed to stay steady, keeping himself in the mix and avoiding trouble as the pack jostled for position on the narrow track. Ferrari's strategy seemed conservative, prioritizing survival over aggression, a plan that might have paid off in a race where incidents are common. But then came the moment that defined his afternoon, the sudden shift from opportunity to disaster. On lap 23, as light rain began to fall over parts of the circuit, the track conditions changed just enough to become treacherous. Zandvoort's banked turns, especially the iconic Turn 3, are challenging even in the dry, demanding precision and confidence. But with a thin layer of moisture settling on the painted lines and curbs, the margin for error shrank dramatically. Hamilton, pushing to maintain pace with the midfield around him, approached Turn 3 carrying speed and looking to use the banking to slingshot out of the corner. Instead, his car touched the damp surface, lost grip instantly, and slid helplessly toward the barriers. The impact was not violent, but it was terminal for his race. The front of the Ferrari crumpled, and with it, Hamilton's hopes of salvaging something from the afternoon disintegrated. The image of his car buried in the barriers while orange smoke filled the stands was symbolic. Here was a seven-time world champion, one of the most successful drivers in Formula One history, stranded and powerless, his race over before it had truly begun. The safety car was deployed, and while the rest of the grid prepared for the restart, Hamilton made the long walk back, helmet still on, expression hidden but emotions likely boiling beneath the surface. This was not just another retirement. It was his first since joining Ferrari, a milestone that underlined how little reward the team's risk of signing him has delivered so far. Hamilton's frustration is understandable. Since the season opener, he has not managed a single podium finish. 15 races have now passed without him stepping onto the rostrum, a streak that would have been unthinkable during his dominant years at Mercedes. The Ferrari project was supposed to be a rebirth, a chance to prove that even at 40 years old, he could still challenge the new generation, still inspire Ferrari to chase greatness. But instead, it has been a sequence of disappointments, and Zandvoort only amplified the sense of futility. To make matters worse, his teammate Charles Leclerc also failed to finish, leaving Ferrari with a double DNF that will hang over the team as they prepare for their home race at Monza. For the Tifosi, the timing could not be worse. The impact of this result stretches beyond the numbers. In the championship, Hamilton is slipping further away from relevance. With Oscar Piastri extending his lead at the top of the standings and Max Verstappen continuing to secure crucial points in front of his home fans, Hamilton finds himself adrift, a veteran fighting battles that seem unwinnable. He has the experience, the instinct, and the determination, but none of that matters if the machinery beneath him cannot deliver. And Ferrari, for all its history and prestige, is still not producing a car capable of fighting consistently at the front. There is also the psychological toll. For a driver used to winning, used to being the center of success, seasons like this weigh heavily. Each mistake, each mechanical failure, each strategic misstep chips away at the belief that redemption is possible. Crashing out in Zandvoort, in conditions that once might have played to his strengths, is not just a racing incident. It is a symbol of how far the situation has slipped. The Ferrari experiment has not yet yielded the dream, and the patience of both Hamilton and the Scuderia will be tested further in the weeks ahead. As the dust settled and the paddock turned its attention to the result, Piastri's victory, Verstappen's second place, and Isaac Hadjar's maiden podium, Hamilton was left once again on the outside of the narrative, a spectator in a season that was supposed to be his comeback story. The irony is painful. While the new generation of drivers cements its place at the top of Formula One, Hamilton is fighting simply to stay relevant. His crash in Zandvoort will be remembered not for its drama, but for what it represents, the continuing decline of a legend who has yet to find a second life with Ferrari. Looking ahead, the situation is precarious. Ferrari now faces its home Grand Prix at Monza, where expectations are always enormous and the scrutiny merciless. Arriving there off the back of a double retirement is disastrous, and the pressure on both Hamilton and Leclerc will be suffocating. For Hamilton in particular, the challenge is emotional as much as technical. Can he still inspire the team? Can he still believe in the project after so many setbacks? Or is this partnership destined to become another chapter in Ferrari's long list of unfulfilled promises? For now, all we can say is that the Dutch Grand Prix has added yet another layer of melancholy to Hamilton's season. A crash on lap 23, his first DNF for Ferrari, no podiums in 15 races, and a growing sense that the fairy tale he envisioned is slipping further away with every passing weekend. The grandstands at Zandvoort roared for Verstappen and celebrated Piastri's triumph, but for Hamilton, it was another silent, painful walk back to the garage. The weight of history, the expectations of Ferrari, and the reality of a season that refuses to deliver, it all came crashing down in those few seconds at turn 3. And as Formula One marches on, the question becomes harder to ignore. Is this the beginning of the end for Lewis Hamilton's story in red, or just another cruel twist in a journey that still has redemption waiting somewhere on the horizon?